Hello there. So you may remember in one of my recent videos I said I was a bit unsure as to what to get myself for Christmas. I was going to do that, but just changed my mind. I said in that video that I didn't believe in materialism and that I wasn't sure about what I wanted to get and whether or not I should build a computer. Well, I've given in and I'm going to build myself a computer. And you join me in a different location today. I thought you might want to see the back of my head for a change. I don't know. I don't have all the components here and there's a bit of a story behind this. I'm going to take you along the whole process. Last computer I built was about 10 years ago, and while things appear to be largely the same, there are a few differences, but there are some massive challenges. I'm going to try and do it for less than £1,400, which I realise is a lot of money, and you can get a computer for much less than that, but this is going to be top of the range. I'm going to sacrifice a few things that I don't think are that important for speed. Maybe I'll be proven wrong. My dad has bought quite an expensive gaming computer, pre-made from PC Specialist, which performs absolutely fantastically, really spectacular, doesn't struggle with anything. This is a lot cheaper, less than half the price. It'll be interesting to see how this compares. So what am I hoping to get out of this computer? Well, yes, I'm hoping to challenge my dad, but also I use a computer for just watching television, so I can do that on my current one. What do I need it for? Gaming. I enjoy racing games, I enjoy simulators, so I'm thinking I might be able to get a nice train simulator, might be able to use the new flight simulator. There's also Goat Simulator, might use that. One of the reasons I'm building this as well is for the process. I enjoy the process of building a computer and I want something to do around the Christmas period that I will remember fondly in years to come. Now, I've tried to buy all of these parts as cheaply as possible. There are a number of parts that I've got here and there are a few outstanding parts. I'm going to talk about some huge problems to do with those outstanding parts as we get through the video. But firstly, I'm going to talk you through the things that have arrived, why I've bought them, how much I paid for them, and as always, if you've got any advice for me, because I haven't done this for a long time, please leave a comment down below. I might talk about the parts that haven't arrived yet in a future video. There'll be a video where I obviously try and put this all together. Assuming that works, that'll just be one video. If it doesn't, it might be more than one. And then a sort of benchmarking and performance video as well, spread over the next probably 6 weeks. So look forward to that. I will leave a link to the parts that I bought down below. They are commission links, so if you do buy something through those links, I'd make a little bit of money, so thank you in advance if you decide to do that. Also, I do have a Patreon. I'll leave a link to that down below. And I've just noticed that because the mirror's there, normally you can't see me gesticulating, but now you can, which is quite annoying, really. Anyway, let's get on. Let's talk about, right, so I've got a monitor. I've got a 4K brand new television that should display video at 60 frames a second in 4K, as long as I have an HDMI 2 cable, I think it is. I've got a keyboard and mouse, so I just need to build the body of the computer. Thinking about bodybuilding, if you want to build like a strong person, the exterior's got to look right, hasn't it? So I bought a cheap case. No, and Corsair. In fact, this is a good point to mention. I've got 4 parts here. They're all Corsair. When has this happened? Corsair seems to dominate the computer component industry now. Years ago, they did used to just make RAM, really, and maybe power supplies, but now they seem to make everything, and they seem to be extremely popular, and they, to be honest, they look quite luxury items. So I'm hoping that the quality lives up to their marketing. So I went for a Corsair. I've got to be careful because my address is on the back of this. I don't want to expose my address, do I? I'm not going to open these. I'm going to save the grand opening until the building video. But I bought the Corsair Carbide Spec 05, which I think, let me just have a look on this side. It says acrylic black with a clear panel on the side. There's a little diagram of what the case looks like, and I paid £44.99 for this from PC World here in the UK. I bought a few items from PC World, so I'll go through those because I did get a discount. So I think this will be sufficient. This is a mid-tower case. I could have gone a full tower case, which is a lot bigger. I'm more used to cases this size. There's adequate room in here to install things and, you know, look around in it without really struggling. I have had the odd mini ATX case in the past. It's just a bit too tight inside to do things comfortably, and you have to start looking up measurements of graphics card lengths and things to make sure they'll fit in your case. So I think this will be just fine. The acrylic panel, clear panel on the side, didn't really need, because I'm going to store this in a TV cabinet and hope it doesn't overheat. But over the Christmas period, it'll certainly be out. So, you know, why not get a clear panel so I can see inside, see all the cool electrical components? Because one of the things that's really changed since I last built a computer is that everything has got RGB these days, as in everything's got LEDs, as we used to call them. Glowing, flashing lights on the processor, on the RAM, on the motherboard. It's just rife. I think it's a bit tacky, to be honest. So I've tried to keep it to a minimum in this. But yeah, I'd like to have a look at it at least. If I'm going to have flashing lights, they might as well be, I suppose, visible for a while. It's very light. This doesn't have the power supply in it, but I'm hoping that Corsair, let's advertise them, Corsair, hoping that the quality is up to scratch. So what else did I get from PC World? Very well packaged items. Blimey. So I've got a wireless network card. This is a completely new format to me. I think it's like a small PCI Express thing. For me, it's still PCI and ISA slots, and the odd AGP one if you're lucky. So yeah, this is all very new to me. Nice little dinky card. I needed to buy this because certainly over the Christmas period I'll stay at my parents' house, that's here, and I'm not going to have a wired Ethernet, so I really want to have access to the internet, so I'll get this wireless card, which was £11.99. You might be able to get a card like this a couple of quid cheaper, but really, you know, I couldn't believe it. A network card used to cost like 30 quid, so got that for functional purposes. And then finally, from PC World, I've bought another Corsair item. I'll leave the bubble wrap on, can't be bothered to take it off. I bought the RM750X Corsair power supply. So yeah, computer needs power and the number of watts is really important. So I went for 750, which is quite high for me because in the olden days my computers used to have sort of 200 watt power supplies, 300 if you were really pushing the boat out. So 750 just seems ridiculous to me. This is the minimum recommended power supply for the graphics card that I intend to buy. It's also 100 watts more than the minimum recommended wattage that was recommended by one of those online calculators where you put in your components and it tells you. I saw the higher minimum for the graphics card after I'd used that calculator. This is a really heavy, good quality bit of kit. The model here, RM with X at the end, that means that it's a slightly newer model. There is like an RM750, I think. These have got special Japanese capacitors in, much more reliable, I think, than the cheaper ones, than the cheaper Chinese capacitors. I have had cheap power supplies in the past. I've had two power supplies explode. No joke. I've had one burst into flames and I've had another one with a capacitor explode in the dead of night and start smoking. Scary, dangerous, and so I would never buy a cheap power supply. So yet again, good quality Corsair bit of kit there. And I bought this from PC World as well for £100 exactly. But I did get some discounts from PC World. So firstly, I saved a grand total of £1.04 on Quidco cashback. I also saved £10.50 by buying a PC World gift card through my work's voucher scheme. I saved 7% on, I think, £150 worth of vouchers. So I saved £10.50. So that's about £11.50 in total. I did research the prices for these items elsewhere, and they are good prices anyway, so I think I got quite a good deal. But please correct me if I'm wrong, because I would, you know, like to know for future reference when I buy another computer in 20 years' time. This is a water cooler. You can see it on the side, CPU water cooler. When I was young, this sort of thing was very fancy. The kind of thing, you know, you'd only see in rich people's houses. But it's all the rage these days, and I think, again, it's got glowing bits on it. I bought this from Amazon for £51, which I think is quite a good price. It's quite discounted. It has only got one fan, and typically a lot of these CPU coolers have more than one fan, but I've looked it up, and actually, you know, this should be enough for the CPU that I'm getting, which I think has got a power consumption of about 105 watts. This should be adequate. Now, this is possibly the thing I'm most nervous about, just being upfront and honest with you in this build, because, you know, water and electricity and water and computer components doesn't really mix, does it? If there are any leaks in this, or I cock this up, I could make a very expensive mistake, and I'm a little bit nervous about that. So your guidance would be much appreciated. Now, the final item on my list that I've actually received is the RAM, and I've gone for DDR4, two 16 gig sticks without damn RGB. I don't want them flashing and glowing. And this is the Corsair Vengeance LPX RAM, and I got an absolutely astounding price for this, assuming they work. I bought them from eBay for a few pence shy of £90, and if you go on any of the major computer websites, this will cost you at the very least about 130 quid, and on some websites, I think on PC World, these are like 160 quid, so that's almost half the price. It's brand new and sealed. Hopefully it's not stolen, because I bought it from eBay. Little bit of a story about buying these. I received them, and then as soon as I received them, the seller opened an item not paid for case, and I really began to panic that it was some kind of eBay scam. They opened the case, they haven't accepted the PayPal payment, which was essentially the problem. You pay for it again, and then they accept the PayPal payment you sent before, and they get the money twice, and you're screwed. But in actual fact, I think it was just really a seller that didn't know what they were doing, and it's all sorted now. So 32 gigs of RAM.
Should be enough for anyone.
One of the things I'm going to be doing is using Flight Sim. You don't really use more than 32 gigs when you're playing these like top games now. So I've got my RAM, so now I just need to put those in the computer, and well, here is the crux of the matter. I don't have any of the decent components, the important components that you need to build a computer: the motherboard, the processor, and the graphics card. My computer is essentially a bodybuilder without a brain or eyes. So I want to get the brand new AMD 5000 series CPUs, and I initially looked at the 5600X CPU, which is their kind of budget bottom one, and I thought, am I being too cheap? I'll get the slightly more expensive one. It's 150 quid more, the 5800X. And essentially, you can't buy these CPUs anywhere. You may be aware that there was a huge cock-up with Nvidia delivering their latest batch of graphics cards. AMD kind of mocked them and said, oh, well, we won't have any of these problems, and they are having exactly those problems with the CPUs. You can't buy them. I managed to pre-order a 5800X from a website called Scan for about £800. That comes with a motherboard, also comes with 16 gigs of RAM that I don't need, that I'm going to have to sell separately. If this video gets like 1 million views, then I'll give it away, but otherwise I'm going to stick it on eBay and get rid of it. It's the same RAM, but 16 gigs of it, and it's a B550F Asus ROG Strix motherboard, I think, or just a gaming motherboard. Anyway, so I ordered that. Then I watched, and you shouldn't do it in this order if you're going to do this yourself, I then watched reviews that said that essentially the 5800X is a waste of money because the 5600 isn't that much worse and it's quite a lot cheaper, and the 5900X is a lot better and only a bit more expensive. But I can't get that anywhere. Websites have a backlog of pre-orders. There's no way that you would be able to get one. I tried to order that actually from Scan. They accepted the order, it was authorized, and then a few hours later I was refunded and the order was cancelled. So yeah, I'm not gonna get that. I'm currently somewhere in a queue of 300 for the 5800X motherboard bundle. Let's hope that it arrives, otherwise I'm not going to have a computer, because I do want the cutting edge processor, because the processor and graphics card combination is quite important, as I will discuss a little bit in a moment. So I don't want the older one, I'd rather just wait until it's available and have a rubbish Christmas thanks to AMD. So that's the processor fiasco. Now we're on to the graphics card fiasco. So apparently AMD are saying that actually if you have the new AMD Big Navi, as they were called, graphics cards, and their new range of processors, then you get the optimal performance. Well, of course they would say that, but it does seem as if there's some kind of technology underlying that claim. They share memory in some way that improves performance. So I want to kind of do that. The alternative is to buy a rather kind of more expensive NVIDIA 3080, and you can't get your hands on those at the moment because of this backlog. I don't know if it's to do with the pandemic and not being able to manufacture things in China. I've no idea, but certainly seems to me like some people are saying it's a business decision, you know, to drum up demand. I can't quite see myself how not being able to sell a product to people who desperately want your product is advantageous in the short or even the long term. And I've got an email. I really want to get my hands on the 6800 XT, which is the mid-range AMD graphics card that's really good value for money. Its prices aren't officially released, but it's about $500 and it will probably be about £500. It's released the 18th of November. I'm going to be nervously checking websites here in the UK and might stay up till midnight on Tuesday or whatever it is. It's highly likely I'll miss out on it and I won't be able to buy it because the demand is huge. Just to give you an idea, I went on one website where it tells you the number of people who've looked at the product in the last 24 hours, and I think for one of the for one of the processors I was looking at, it said that 60,000 people had viewed that page in the last 24 hours. If they haven't made enough of them, I'm simply not going to get my hands on them. At least if I get the motherboard, I've got a graphics card I can put in it so I can have a little bit of a play over Christmas. Obviously the performance will be graphics card limited, you know, so it won't be that good, but at least I'd have a computer to build and show you and to play with. But there's a significant possibility as it stands I won't get the motherboard, processor or graphics card. Let's see what happens. As I say, I'm going to make future videos where I'll give you an update, if there is an update to give you, about the Scan fiasco, about receiving the pre-ordered processor and motherboard. Do I advance beyond being 300th in this queue and actually receive it? And eventually, when I have all these components, I'm going to do a build on camera, show you how it all works or doesn't, as the case may be. Anyway, do you think I've made some good choices? Are these good prices as far as you're concerned? Or have I made wrong choices? Should I have gone for an 850 watt PSU? Please tell me. Thank you to my loyal Patreons who are scrolling down the screen now. For just a few dollars a month, they get early access to all of my videos. Thanks also to Georgefoot and Magnanimous Meg, who are extremely generous Patreons. Thank you very much. Do subscribe if you enjoy my videos, and I shall see you next time for another one.